Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I'll be discussing Disney Pixar's 2010 animated sequel and 11th overall movie released by the studio, Toy Story 3, as directed and apologies by Lee Unkrich, watched as part of our family film night and as part of the Toy Story movie series. Serving as a direct sequel to 1999's Toy Story 2, the movie brings us back to the world of the toys first created in 1995's original Toy Story, bringing back most of the beloved characters from the first two films: Woody, Buzz, Jessie, Bullseye, Rex, Ham, Slinky the dog, and Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, just to name a few, and of course, Andy himself. All again mainly voiced by the original actors from the first two movies. I say mainly because sadly Jim Varney, who gave his voice for Slinky the dog in the first two movies, did sadly pass away not too long after the release of the second film, and so was actually replaced by his long-time friend Blake Clark. So Toy Story 3 was released some 11 years following the first sequel, and I must say that the characters and story still seem as fresh and as enticing as they did back in 1995. Apart from the excellent intro sequence, the movie is set actually quite a few years later than the second. This time we see Andy, as voiced again by John Morris, all grown up, now 17 and able to drive, just about to go to college. Most of Andy's toys are now gone, and all that is left are the aforementioned characters. Them and a couple of the little green army men, and the three little aliens, who, together, we now see living in a storage chest in Andy's bedroom, having not been played with for many years and, apologies, almost all but forgotten. They're still faithful to Andy though, ready to go into storage in the attic in case he ever needed them again. However, one thing leads to another, and they do end up inadvertently getting thrown away in the trash. Feeling unloved and downtrodden, much to Woody's, as again voiced by Tom Hanks, protest, who knows it's all been a big mistake. The toys agreed to put themselves in a donation box for the Sunnyside Day Nursery, believing this to be a place where they can all feel loved once again and get played with. When, however, they get to Sunnyside, it's like a dream come true. It's a toys paradise, lots of children to play with them, and a never-ending batch of new recruits when the children get old and move on. They are met with very welcoming arms and admiration from the other toys, the leader of which is Lotso, as voiced by Ned Beatty, a big fluffy pink teddy bear who smells of strawberries. Which it does see a whole new bevy of actors basically lend the voice talents to the movie, including by no means limited to people like Timothy Dalton, Whoopi Goldberg, Kristen Schaal, Michael Keaton, Bonnie Hunt, and Jeff Garlin. However, all is not what it seems, and our band of toys soon realise that they have found themselves in a dictatorship and an almost prison-like situation, being confined against their will in the caterpillar room, inhabited by toddlers, I would say probably about 2 or 3 years old, who do not know how to play with toys, and basically seeing the rest of the toys in the room just scarper, prior to the children entering and seeing the look of total fear on Buzz's face, as again voiced by Tim Allen. Just looking at his face when he realised that something was amiss was absolutely priceless. Closing his visor as if preparing for war. This was made even especially more comical when coupled with Rex's, again as voiced by Wallace Shawn, eager anticipation at being played with, and then being flown straight across the room as the children entered following recess. Absolutely fantastic. What then follows makes for some very icky watching. Woody, having left prior to finding out what Sunnyside is like, goes on his own mission to get back to Andy. However, he ends up meeting a bunch of new toys owned by a little girl called Bonnie, as voiced by Emily Hahn. They let Woody know that they basically let Woody know just what Sunnyside is like. And soon his own personal interests are thrown out the window, and he launches his own daring mission to rescue all of his friends from Sunnyside in a fantastic, almost Great Escape-esque style. So, quite simply put, Pixar have created another masterpiece, in my opinion. That is both a fitting tribute to the original movies in the series, being very much of a similar ilk, and definitely capturing the same magic that we enjoyed in both of them, but whilst also standing out on its own, with a number of very bold differences and a very harrowing and traumatic climactic scene, but absolutely outstanding nonetheless. I mean, wow, what I've got to admit, started tears streaming down my face. It was that emotional. It will have you gripping the edge of your seat, I am absolutely sure. The film takes what's good about the first two movies and gives it yet another twist. Whereas the first film was obviously iconic, the first of its kind in many ways, it was also quite funny, quite hilarious. Not saying that the other two aren't funny, but the second one opts for a more grand story on a more epic scale. And the third one tries to tear at your heartstrings a lot more and succeeds. The scope has been reduced in terms of locations, opting for more of a playtime feel than we are a grand plot. But the way that they do it is simply brilliant. In fact, this outing was through and through the most emotional yet, with some fantastic characters, fantastic character depth, and absolutely powerful storytelling. It is actually darker in tone than the other two movies, with some of the moments that they have quite a slight horror edge to them, if I'm honest. I would say at the very least in the vein of a thriller, perhaps. This time around, we meet toys that have sinister motives, darker motives than what we have seen previously. Toys that look like they should be cute and cuddly, but ain't. What I especially liked in this movie, and I'm sure that they did this in the previous ones, it was just more evident here, shall I say, was the way that the filmmakers were able to convey just the sheer wide range of emotions from the toys whilst they were frozen and able to move through the use of like camera angles and things, film speed and the musical tone, such that there is one scene where Woody is being played with for the very first time in a really long while, and you can see that temptation's calling with just the sheer look of enjoyment on his face without it even moving. It is just an absolute treat to watch. One thing, however, I've never kind of understood was that the fact that the toys had never come alive for Andy. Now, I know that this would probably be quite scary, quite a scary moment to see, most definitely. But for all the love and the special bond that they had between them, you might have at least have thought Woody, at the very least, might have moved a little smile or had a slight nod of the head in appreciation, perhaps. I mean, we know they can come alive in the front of humans, as they did in the first one when they scared Andy's neighbour Sid into submission. I suppose, of course, it just adds to the overall mystery, doesn't it? I perhaps thought this might happen in the film, given it was supposed to be, at the time, the finale to the series. Well, the movie isn't devoid of comedy, and I am sorry if I have made or given this impression. Perhaps it is hilarious, though not, in my opinion, to the same extent as the first movie. This one relies more or heavily on its characters, personally, and rather than on the side gags and slapstick. The film does continue the ongoing joke regarding Buzz and the way he acts when new, if you like, which I thought was a really nice touch and utilises this in the plot with hilarious consequences. They still have managed to keep that premise fresh and entertaining even after 3 movies. Enter El Buzzo. One of the most hilarious moments for me actually did involve Mr. Potato Head, with him showing just how versatile a toy he can be. What a toy. And if you thought that there was a lot of toys including the first 2 movies, boy, this was just an absolute smorgasbord of toys. Some I can remember, some original, some I even had, such as a Fisher-Price telephone on wheels. I can remember having one of them, definitely. Even the beginning of the movie can bring a tear to your eye. I mean, the whole film series, which started in 1995, spans almost a generation gap in its own right. And part of the intro sees just basically how time has passed and how Andy has grown up since the second movie. After only 2 previous films, and of course now into the third, you get a real sense that you've grown up with these characters. You certainly feel some of the pain and the anguish. It's surprising just how much the filmmakers can make you actually relate to a bunch of toys. Taking in all of their hopes, their fears and desires, and even romance. So I've got to say it again, another absolute hit of a movie from Pixar, who have yet again surpassed themselves in every way following their efforts on the previous 2 movies. Perhaps with some darker themes than its predecessors, this film still delights and entertains throughout, containing the story and adventures of the courageous band of toys first introduced to us in 1995, with yet another strong cast of voices and a fantastic and very heartfelt plot. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks for watching. If you have, please do leave a like on this video. Please do hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, please do return back to SciFirst MovieTalk for more movie reviews, more trailer reactions, movie-related gameplay, and other assorted things that we have on the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.